welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be giving you my part 2 to this little series on what you can do to truly prepare for a positive and empowering birth experience. My name is Kitty Hackle. I am an antenatal educator, I'm a lactation consultant, registered general nurse, hypnobirthing instructor and birth and postpartum doula. On this channel I talk about everything from trying to conceive, pregnancy, hypnobirthing, birth preparation, postpartum and breastfeeding. So if that's the sort of content you're interested in seeing, make sure and hit that little subscribe button down below if you haven't already. Let's get straight into the tips. So our first tip for the second part of this series of what you can do to prepare for a positive and empowering birth is to practice, practice, practice. Practice really does mean make perfect when it comes to those different techniques that you're planning on employing during your birth experience. So you might have learned during your antenatal classes about massage techniques for birth, acupressure, different sort of tools and techniques that you really want to employ. However, that being said, it's not going to be something that comes naturally to you or your birth partner unless that is something that you have practiced already. So whether that is movement for birth, massage, acupressure, the use of aromatherapy techniques, or perhaps some sort of spinning babies techniques to optimize your baby's position, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Those are things that are not going to come naturally to you unless you really truly practice them. So the more you practice them, the more you become comfortable with them, the more likely you are to be able to use them during birth and for them to be something that's really going to benefit you during that little experience. So now that we are practicing our comfort measures, we are preparing our body and moving our body in a way that helps us to feel strong and prepared for birth, the next thing is making sure that your baby is in the most optimal position for birth. So this isn't something that is talked about all that often, but our baby actually has to sort of spiral through your pelvis as your baby is being birthed. So what we want to do is make sure that our baby is in the most optimal position for that. For our baby to really spiral through the pelvic canal, we want to make sure that we have our baby with gravity working to our favour, so that the heaviest part of their body, which is their back, swings towards the front. You might have heard a lot about back labour or OP babies or stargazing babies. These babies have their back to your back, which means you can have sort of a longer and more uncomfortable labour. So the more that you do now, the more likely you are to have a faster, easier and smoother delivery. So check out spinningbabies.ie is a fantastic website. Make sure you're doing lots of sort of hands and knees work so that gravity can truly work in your favour to have baby's back spin around to the front. Lots of inversions, lots of sideline release. These are all techniques that I'm going to do in a whole separate video, so make sure and keep your eyes peeled on the different movements that I am doing and I encourage other mamas to do before birthing their baby. But preparing your body in a way that can optimize baby's position can truly have a positive impact on your birth experience. So one of my next tips is actually quite an overall tip, and that is looking at your nutrition during your pregnancy. So in order for you to be feeling strong, capable and prepared for giving birth to your baby, you want to feel good from the inside out. There are some things that you can do and certain sort of supplements that you can take. Specifically, I'm going to talk a little bit about red raspberry leaf tea and the ingestion of dates in your pregnancy. Red raspberry leaf tea in particular is considered a uterine tonic more than anything. So the research is not hugely supportive of this, but from about 35 weeks, anecdotally, many women have found that their births have been a lot smoother, a lot faster, and their surge is a lot more efficient. So you want to start with drinking 1 cup of red raspberry leaf tea a day, making sure that it's not something that's mixed in with sort of apples or strawberries to make it taste nice. So you want to be making sure that it's about as pure as can be and building that up to 4 cups of strongly brewed tea per day. I always prefer to recommend the tea, the loose tea in particular, over the supplements because they don't have the same sort of binding agents and other little fillers that you wouldn't get with a tea. The other thing then that you can add into your diet at this point is plenty of protein and fibre. So making sure that you have a diet that encourages healthy bowel movements, and protein is the building block for new cells. So of course it's important for a healthy baby, but it also lends itself really nicely to your recovery postpartum. There's a fantastic book that I'm going to link down below, which is The First 40 Days, which has got some gorgeous recipes in it and talks really beautifully about the importance of that postpartum period for you. Oftentimes it's called the fourth trimester. Maybe I'll do a whole separate video on that. The last thing that I recommend then as a top tip, and something that's got a huge evidence base behind it, sounds a little bit like woo, but I'm going to link some of the articles below. Evidence-based birth, if you're ever looking for some sort of evidence base around birth in particular, is a fantastic resource. But they have a lovely article that breaks down the different studies that have been done on the ingestion of dates, specifically date fruit, 6 dates per day in those later weeks of your pregnancy. And those women who ingested 6 dates had a significant effect on their sort of cervical ripening, that sort of softening of their cervix. They were also less likely to experience induction or any kind of augmentation of their labours. So if you are into sort of eating dates and you don't have gestational diabetes, you've run that by your care provider already, then trying dates out in the end stages of your pregnancy can be a really beautiful thing to do to prepare your body. So my next tip then is about practicing perineal massage. One of the biggest fears, particularly for first-time mums, is that you're going to tear during the birth of your baby. And there are certain things that you can do to reduce the likelihood of you tearing. I have a whole separate video on that altogether. However, to really remove that fear and create some empowerment around your body's ability to birth your baby, the practice of perineal massage has a huge evidence base behind it. I'm going to link you down below to that separate video where I talk all about the tools and techniques that are required to practice perineal massage and exactly how you can do it in a way that's going to be beneficial for you. So my last tip for this little video is the use of evening primrose oil. And this is actually something that I didn't do in my last pregnancy, but now I'm really wishing that I did. The use of evening primrose oil has been found to have what we call a prostaglandin-like effect on our bodies. So that is, again, coming back to sort of those changes that happen in our cervix prior to our baby being born. So softening, ripening, opening of our cervix in a really efficient way. So research tells us that if we ingest 2 capsules orally and 2 capsules PV or vaginally by just making a little hole in the top, it allows that sort of the lovely prostaglandin-like effect to take place. So inserting 2 capsules up, taking 2 capsules orally from 37 weeks onwards, because it has been found to sort of bring labour on a little bit according to some research. Of course, do your own, make sure you run it by your care provider if this is something that you want to give a try. And let me know how you get on in the comments down below, because I'm always interested in what your experiences are.